It is the Monday, June 24th, 2019. It is now 7 p.m. We are going to start the town select board meeting, something like that. First order of business is offering related additions to the agenda. Anybody have anything they'd like to add? Not that there's a lot of room to add it, but hearing none. Anybody? Nope. Move number 2. We'll approve the minutes of the May 13th select board meeting. And they're all sent out electronically, plus they've been posted. So I would ask if anybody has any questions, any clarifications, any gripes, complaints? Hearing none?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I have one. If you make a motion to approve, all in favor of approving, say aye. And then I'll add this discussion.
Oh,
Hold it, let's hold it, just for her simple. I mean, it just, then we have to have a motion to do the motion. The only question is, if you look at number 7, there's a Judy contacted 2 of the painters, and they say they would warranty the job at the town hall. My recollection is they said they would not warranty the.
I thought she said they would. That was what I recall.
Does anybody else recall?
I don't recall that they would warranty.
My understanding was they would not.
I thought she said 2 of them would. Guess we better get the tape out.
We'll take the tape out, yeah. So let's go ahead and hold these until we check with Judy. All right? Because that would be, it's important, and I don't know what the answer was. Because once again, we're relying on my memory, which has been notoriously well reported in the news. So I would offer an amendment to that you didn't make, that we postpone these minutes until we get a chance to talk to Judy. Does that meet with everybody's approval?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll hold on those. Number 3, approve the time sheets for town offices, solicitors, highway, and transfer. We will handle those as we usually do at the end of the session, so we don't keep all of you guys up any longer than necessary. Sign select board order, same thing. Appoint the deputy forest fire warden. We have a opening for the deputy forest fire warden, and the select board has to make an application to the Agency of Natural Resources for both the forest fire warden and the deputy. And we have Bob Stonsky, who is the first assistant fire chief. Is that correct? First? I have so many to choose from. You're number 1. Who has volunteered to accept this task. Talk it over with Sue Barker, who is the current forest fire warden. So if in fact we got the information from Bob, what we have to do is we need signatures. We need 5 signatures, 6 signatures, we got 5 people. We have a quorum. I would entertain a motion to nominate Mr. Stonsky.
I will make a motion to nominate Bob Stonsky for the Deputy Town Forest Fire Warden.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing nobody opposed, he has been appointed. Thank you, sir. You and I can
You
get.
know, I made a point to that Joel Beckwith for me held that position for many years.
Yeah, and Joe Beckwith has apparently moved on to greener pastures.
And left another open position for deputy health officer.
Oh, that's right. He's
I didn't have it on the agenda, I should have told you a couple more
we
times.
should add it. Couple more times.
I only told you once.
Oh, well, I thought we pretty clear that.
I don't.
I'll just
Myself
myself a
will
note.
open the door. I forgot in the beginning too, so sorry.
Deputy health officer. So we gotta hang on to that folder I just gave you for whoever we get to fill that job. All right. And then when we do the signings, all the select board members need to sign this. You can do that at the day as well. Bob, while you have the stage, you submitted an email to me the other day, back last meeting, seemed like it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We were talking about speed bumps and
Yeah.
different kinds of things, and you volunteered to get some information on the speed bumps. Now, this isn't a vote on whether we're gonna do it, this is just Bob sharing us the information on the cost. Do you wanna do that, or want me to do that?
Well, you came, because I gave you the paperwork and stuff, but,
Okay.
because I don't have the figures or any of that stuff, but if you want to share with the board what we found, it was easy to go on the website and just, you know, there's two types of options you can do. You can do one type that mounts right into the ground or into the roadway and remove the bumps afterwards, or you can do what, if you've gone to the Corps of Engineers, up at Ball Mountain Dam, they've got two of them right up there, and they're cabled. The cable runs right through the rubber bumps and stuff, and they're anchored on, actually they got them anchored to guardrails on each side of the post with a cable. So they can be detached easily enough, and it's one continuous length. The ones that I was looking at are 6 foot length, so you probably need 3 to complete the full length of the road, and you probably need 2 places to locate those. And also we gave you a price for stop signs that would have to, speed bump signs to be included in that cost. And I don't think it came any more than
Was under about $1,000 for everything.
$1,000.
And that was overkill. I mean, we didn't know how many speed bumps you'd need across the
Yeah,
road.
the rubber, recycled rubber speed bump.
Right.
Amount was $136.95 each, and we need 6 for a total of $128.21.70. And incidentally, these things weigh about 50 pounds, 6 feet, 12 inches. At the highest point on the speed bump is 2.5 inches tall, and it includes mounting hardware. And then the caution signs are $25.95 each. 4 of those, $103.80 for a total of $925.50. So that's the numbers. We're not discussing whether we want to do it tonight or not, but we wanted to get the numbers out, which we did not have during the last discussion.
Was it pertinent for me to ask if the captain that was here suggested several times that we talk to our road foreman? Did anyone talk to him?
We talked to him.
The question,
Yeah, we talked to him. He certainly doesn't want anything permanent because plowing is a problem. We talked about the temporary ones, just putting up and down.
Who does want them? How
We had-
many people want them?
My mom and dad would be included in that too.
There was, at the night of the conversation, there was several people in the audience who wanted the speed bumps. They're the one who suggested it.
Out of 1,100.
So far, out of whoever showed up.
All right, I'm off topic anyway, but I don't think there's any need for it.
Well,
I
what
think the speed has come way down since the cops been watching.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anyone getting hit or run over or anything since I've lived there. Maybe Clara has, because she's lived there.
actually, my son was run over. Actually, my son, David, when he was little, was hit by a car down by the school
Right.
by somebody that was at the state park. He ended up in the hospital with severe concussion, so it does happen. That's firsthand. I mean, that was a lot of years ago, but there are more cars now than there were then. Also, along those lines, we also talked about sidewalk, not sidewalk, but we talked about some crosswalk.
crosswalk.
I haven't heard that, right.
Yeah.
we haven't returned to that topic. This
Okay.
is just information adjunctive to the
Right, but
opening
it's
of the
along
first
the
topic.
same lines of slowing down the speed on Depot Street. It's all the same thing.
From the last meeting, they said the box that was there could record what the speed
What
was.
the data is.
And they could provide that information back to us. I can reach out to Windham County and see if they have it. Would they pick it up?
Actually, I spoke, could I follow up on the box that's there and it has slowed down traffic?
Yeah, right.
Is that all right?
We're deviating, we've got a lot to cover. so
Well,
We'll go,
you
you brought it up.
brought
That's fine.
It's the same, it's the same topic.
it's the same topic,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's going to be moved further down because right now the trees that we have on our property don't allow it to work because it's solar. And so that data won't be collected. And also that data that's being collected might show that people are not speeding because it works. So, because when people come around the corner, they see the sign, they slow down. So it served its purpose. But the data isn't going to show people speeding. And that's what, when I talked to one of the deputies, that's what they said.
Okay, so that'll be good information. When that topic makes it to the agenda, it will be warned as such so that everybody who is affected gets a warning We're gonna talk about it that night. We'll have that information. If you can get it from those guys, fine.
I'll see, I mean, if they haven't collected the box yet, they probably don't have the information.
Yeah, they're coming sometime, but I don't know when.
So, and how long are they moving it down? A couple more weeks, or?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna move it, so when they move it, I think they'll probably collect the data from.
Okay, I'll call the sheriff and see.
And that's word today with the deputy that was here.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Paul, can I just ask, this is just on Depot Street that we're talking, and,
Yeah.
right?
At this point,
It's not on Water Street or anything, and where were you thinking of putting this?
we haven't got that far. We just broke the concept, and this information Bob is adding to the conversation we already had.
That's okay, I just.
We are going to have the conversation. Yeah. Okay. And since you're of the floor, we have some information on Old Home Day.
We do.
Oh, and you should introduce yourself. I forgot that, Bob. It's the camera goes by Bob Wade. I will.
Karen Avedon. So we're planning on having Jamaica Old Home Day on Saturday, September 14th, between 12 and 5. We've got music, we've got a parade, bed race, ducky dash, vendors, train, clown, book sale, kids games, a cider press because it's in the fall now. Tom is doing the cider press.
Remind me, please.
We've got a new local family that moved into Beckwith's that make donuts, so they're making apple cider donuts. Chili contest, pig roast. The church is involved, the library is involved, the Jamaica benefit. We're hoping the fire department might do something, or at least be around to walk around. We'll have a birthday cake for Jamaica. The Historical Foundation's doing a walking tour and using QR codes, which you use with your phone, to get more information, and we'll put a sign up in front of each building. What I need from you is the Sheriff's Department. I'm not sure who's the liaison is. We'll need no parking signs to go up and down Main Street, and they usually leave them off here in this building and we pick them up. We'll need a deputy between 12 and 5, and another one during the parade, so we have someone at either end of town.
What time is the parade?
3 o'clock. And we're also asking if we can close off the section of street in front of the church on Depot Street that comes up that little area in front of the church.
You mean the little right.
So people would have to go to Water Street then?
No, you can go straight down on Depot Street.
If you go
Just
straight
that
down, you
little-
just couldn't come back up.
Yeah, you can still come back up, you just can't turn in front of the
This
church.
is just a little curve.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just that little curve, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they still access.
okay.
I think that should be.
You think of anything else, Ann? That's,
No, I think that covers, okay, yeah.
okay. And we're working on getting plenty of parking around for people, and we'll have that designated.
Historically, haven't used behind the fire station?
Not really. We have lined up the parade there
Oh, okay. All right.
from time to time, and out by the town garage and a little on Water Street, but Water Street's a little narrower there, so.
You put marching units out through like the bands and
Oh,
stuff.
I got you. I've never been off on a Saturday. What year is this now? You said it's the anniversary? The town's anniversary, the town's birthday?
Well, we just have a birthday cake each year.
Or generic?
I don't remember how old we are, but we'll figure it out.
We'll find out by September 14th.
Do that.
It's 1780, so there you go.
Okay,
For my time.
So thank you.
just before. Okay. All right.
239. 239.
2:39.
Yeah.
Next year will be 240.
It's about time we start celebrating our birthday.
You know, that means in 10 years we'll be at, or 11 years, we'll be at 250, so we should really do up a big event.
All right. Let's see how you do.
Yes, you'll still be on, right?
I'll check with you later. All right. Thank you very much. The next item, you have to share for as well. You had asked for us to have a town forum on the town hall
Oh, okay,
for, to pump these things together.
that's very good.
When I was paying attention, I clumped things together so you could.
So there is a vote on July 16th, I think it is, to
Yes.
decide whether to let Windham 7 through 12 out of our district. And this is going to affect everyone's taxes in Jamaica, Newfane, Brookline, and Townsend, but for us specifically. The district board is having an informational meeting the week before on the 9th. And we're asking, or we have asked our two board members, Christina Robinson and Drew Hazelton, if they would come and explain it to the town. And we asked if we could have the meeting in the town hall. It's open, so we're sort of on the agenda, or on the calendar.
Yes, we're setting the calendar, so this meeting will be at what time?
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock, sounds like a good time. And it's open to everybody, but we're gonna talk specifically around its effect on Jamaica, is that correct?
Yes. It's on a Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, but the number.
I think it's the
Two.
2nd, it must be the 2nd, the 16th, the 9th, and the 2nd.
Okay.
Okay.
What's the second?
July 2nd
July 2nd.
will be the date of the informational meeting here in the town
And
hall.
what's the 9th?
The 9th is the informational meeting at Leland and Gray, and the vote is the 16th.
60.
So because your taxes will go up if they're let out, and I think it's important that people realize that.
Is this something they've requested, or is it just something
Who has
that
requested?
Wyndham has requested?
Yes.
To get
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the meeting's on for Tuesday.
Okay.
We will all see you
July
there.
2nd. Thank you.
Welcome. The next item is review and approve the sign and sign the contract for the Windham County Humane Society. We have a running contract with the Windham County Humane Society to accept and board animals that our animal control officer picks up for whatever reason. There is an arrangement that we have within the contract that we pay the Windham County Humane Society, kept saying historical, a flat fee of $350 to serve as the impoundment facility for the town to satisfy VSA 20 VSA 3381. The town will set impoundment fees to be paid by the owners reclaiming stray dogs. So the town sets the impoundment fee. We give them $350 a year and they hold them. That's if our town constable grabs a dog or any animal, well, not cows and livestock critters. It went up $50 this year. It was $300. It's now $350. But looking this over, it's essentially the same thing we've been doing for years and years and years. I just need, because we're spending money, I need to be instructed by the select board to authorize this contract.
Did we adjust for it in the budgets? Because we didn't anticipate that problem.
I don't think we anticipated, that's not going to Terry. Exactly when this kicks in, I'm sure we did not, that extra $50 we did not. Because we were talking about this and it was a surprise to us.
What, the extra money?
Yeah, the $350.
It's still a deal.
It's still a
And what, do you know what the fees are? $25 a pop?
I think it's 25, but I'm not positive. We need to decide and talk to Al about how that's
Okay.
managed.
Okay.
But I think it's like $25. I think it's a little bit more expensive if we have to do it multiple times. But generally speaking, and of course, the animal, if the dog is going to be released without
Right.
proper registration.
Okay.
So there may be, and it's over a period of time, and there's lots of little factors. If there's medical need, there's some other criteria in there, but it's basically the same thing we've been doing. It does say that grievously injured or sick animals requiring immediate vet care must be transported directly to a vet clinic by the town. And those guys are there 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. to determine if he needs vet care or not. But So there's some other fuzzy pieces to it, but the average pick up a dog and bring him someplace, it's right at
Yeah,
25 bucks.
yeah. I'll make a motion to accept the contract, Windham County Humane Society for $350.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further questions? Discussion? Hearing none? So moved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will pass. And I will sign this. There's any listers here? No. There's a procedure that takes place that I'm not too terribly familiar with, so if you guys know better than I, wait. That in the course of doing the grant list, we have to certify that on this date, no earlier than the first day or Tuesday, whatever, there are no appeals pending from the actions of the listers, nor suits to recover taxes paid under protest. So under the provisions of 32 VSA section 4157, from this date on, when offered in evidence in any court in the state, this list shall be received as a legal grand list, and its validity shall not be put in issue by any party to any action in any hearing or trial in any court. The listers have submitted this, they've all signed it. We as select board members need to sign it as well. Basically, we're saying that the grand list is okay, that there's nobody questioning it, and there's nothing pending. Okay, so all the listers have submitted it, we just need to sign it.
Okay.
So I take a motion to certify the appeal or suit, no
I
appeal.
move that we sign a certificate of no appeal or suit pending from the list.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will do that at the end of the evening.
I'll approve.
Oh.
That you need to go that there.
See, we missed you when you were gone. All
Tommy usually does.
You're a flat cop. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item of business, we have coming up the usual audit. And this is, we have contracts from Sullivan and Powers and Company. These are the people that have been doing our audit for, I don't know, years, as long as I can remember.
Since the flood.
Since the flood, that's all I can remember. That's good. And this is, again, so I went over this thing and I couldn't find anything that's different. It's just basically they're the ones who keep us all out of jail. We need at least 3 signatures for that. And it outlines in detail. The fee for this year is $17,500, provided that the books are closed and reconciled and administrative things are done. Their process is our procedures to bill on a monthly basis for work performed to date. The accounts are due and payable. Finance charge of 1% per month will be charged on balances over 30 days. The technical aspects, but they go through quite a detail about how they and we are to set up for this audit. So if there's no questions on how best to go about doing this, or any questions about Sullivan and Powers, entertain a motion.
Could I request in the future we get copies of this before the meeting? Just so we can-
Sure. You want to put this, hopefully you want to put this off? What do we got for a date, for time to have this done, you know? They sent it June 7th.
That was a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
We were
either
missing a lot of
late
people.
July or early August.
Yeah, it's been in the red box here since July, June 7th.
Do you know if it went up a bunch since last year?
I don't believe it has gone up a lot. I can't remember. I talked to,
I don't know, it was what'd you say it was?
17.5.
16 something, last time I was paying attention.
yeah, it went up a little bit. Everything's gone up a little bit. But where's the number? 17.5, is that what I just said?
Yes.
Yes.
17.5. Yeah. These guys know our town. They know the books. They know the situation. I've had to come down with the FEMA stuff with them pretty much every time just to make sure what we're doing. They do a good job and they know us.
Totally, we're not at deadline, so to speak. There's probably no reason why we can't all read it.
Sure.
I'm not familiar with the details, but maybe there's no details to be familiar with. It's
Well,
boilerplate.
It is boilerplate, but there's no problem with you guys looking it over. Like I said, it's been in the red basket since the 7th of June. We get it in the mail, but we don't get it electronically. Yeah, it comes in a big brown envelope that says, here, pay this on it.
Real thing to review is when the report comes out.
Well, that comes out pretty thick. That's up there. That's on the.
Oh, I know, but I mean, each year.
Yeah.
One thing and exciting.
All right, so we want to delay this until you had more time
Yeah, I
to read
think
it?
we should.
Sure.
I may have to.
I'll put this postponed until next. Select board meeting. What do we say, the next one is July the 8th, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If that presents a problem, for some reason, if you talk to Terry, if this is a problem, and we've got a time clock that's got to be beaten, let us know and we'll figure out a way to gather our forces. Okay? All right, the next item is, we have 2 excess weight permits. One is for the Camp Precast Concrete Products, Inc. And the other one is for Washburn Vault Company Incorporated. They've included the checks. And insurance paperwork. So I think our current procedures is to pass these to the road commissioner. I can do that tomorrow. If we are all in favor of these sorts of things, how would we stick? Let me rephrase that. In the past, we've been voting on them. Recently, we decided to just pass them forward to the road commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
But in case there's any objections on it from you guys, then otherwise, we'll just pass it forward.
Yeah, it's fine.
Make that?
All the details are there.
There's no
Yep,
abnormalities or anything.
nothing that we know of. Next item is a response from the Tewksbury property question. I've been in contact with Nancy Hancock, who is the attorney for the Tewksbury LLC. I got a letter back from her, and I've also gotten email from Stuart Barber, who's been the contractor. He wrote most recently. I've been contacting the Mr. Raymond's office. They have requested that for the short term, I board up the house better and put more signage up. Looking long term, they've asked me to put together a proposal for demolition. As you know, I'm a busy guy, so please make concerned parties aware that action is being taken, but don't expect it to happen overnight. So, and that's essentially what the lawyer, Ms. Hancock, said. So this is apparently where we're going, the direction we're heading for that one. So that answers some of the questions. Timing is an issue, but it's moving in that direction.
It's better than them not doing anything, because they don't have to do anything.
Isn't some of the concern though the trench that's around the building? That
Oh.
we think that people could fall into that or get hurt?
Backfill.
Yeah.
Backfill?
Yeah, I'm really gonna backfill
It's
that.
in demo, I don't just be flat,
I suspect so.
flat piece of property.
Yeah, that would be good, yes.
Some expense, but
Mm-hmm.
he's willing to say he's gonna do it, that's some progress.
It is, yeah.
My only concern is there should be some kind of time frame for them to stay within to keep the correspondence going.
Sure, but it's voluntary. And we have no power as private property. The fact that they're doing this at all, they don't have to do it. So we're kind of glad they're doing it. And they understand, they're being reasonable people. They're not putting it off until Christmas. They're doing what they can. Okay. Number 15, review and discuss the bids for the town water proposal. We have a guest speaker who is available to answer questions on this topic.
He's sending to a convention.
And, oh, good sending, yeah.
And Brian's here too.
What's that?
Brian's here too.
Hi, Brian. We've had 3 bids. First of all, let's be clear what we're talking about. We're talking about trying to identify a source for the discussed public water supply. So the topic tonight is, we now have some numbers, which I'm going to pass out to everybody. that will give you an idea of what the cost with these three proposals it looks like. So that we can take a look at just the cost to go forward, not the cost at this point to complete the entire project. So what we have, is we've had three proposals, one from Otter Creek Engineering, another one from VHB Engineering, and another one from Wright Pierce Engineering. And Chrissy has, and I've read all three of them, and I'm not an engineer, and it shows. However, we have engineers. So Chrissy has gone through these, and they're available for us, making available to everybody. She has broken the summaries down in an apple-to-apple summary. And that's the sheet I just passed out to you guys. To give us a rough idea what the three bids look like when compared to each other. If you look them over, you'll notice that the bottom line, well, phase one for the Wright Pierce group is 5,600, VHB is 21, Otter Creek is 25, and that's phase one, doesn't include the drills.
Correct.
This is computer work.
Phase one would get you a report with a list of potential well sites ranked from most feasible down. There'd be various ranking factors, but it would get you a report telling you where you should drill. That's what you would get out of phase one. No drilling.
And how do they determine that? Do they have maps?
That's why I brought Brian.
Do they have like Ursa maps or something where they?
They're gonna,
water sources are they?
Brian, introduce yourself to the camera.
I'm Brian Zeroff, resident here in Jamaica on a planning commission and a hydrogeologist. So what they're going to do is they're going to look at several sources. They're going to look at overburden geology maps, bedrock geology maps, any local hydrogeologic studies. There's one that was done for the entire town of Londonderry. And any resource that they can get their hands on. They're going to do fracture trace analysis. They're going to look at lineaments, what they're called. They'll take aerial photographs, look at them under a stereographic lensing system, which will significantly magnify the three-dimensional topography, and you can actually see bedrock fractures. One of the proposals included a thrust fault that runs right underneath pretty much where the fire department property is. And thrust faults are important because where rock fractures, it can contain the most water. So we're going to look at all this stuff. It's a lot of legwork. It's not just punching a few computer keys and firing up a report. They're going to do all of the encyclopedia book work to get to the point where they can say, we think this spot is the best spot to drill.
And then the other part of that phase one, that the three different proposals have kind of varying levels of this analysis, is looking at the, they'll identify these locations based on everything Brian just said, and then they would look at those locations as part of the ranking and look at natural resources, cultural resources, permitting requirements, so that'll all be included in that and part of the ranking. And so there's different levels in each of the different proposals as to how far they would go with that.
When you and I were talking, what was the big difference? I mean, the difference between 5,600 and 20,000 basically for the other two. Why was Wright Pierce so much lower in that regard? Had that to do with the permitting?
So on VHBs, they have this is why I said there's varying levels. VHB is proposing to go do an environmental permitting assessment, natural resource assessment, cultural resource consultation, including the Division of Historic Preservation. I mean, they're covering everything.
Right.
I think Otter Creek was doing more of a natural resources evaluation and looking at permitting requirements. And then Wright Pierce was, they were looking pretty high levels, looking at sensitive receptors, so natural resource analysis, a high level natural resource analysis as well. I think some of what maybe Otter Creek and VHB have in phase 1, Wright Pierce has in phase 2.
I see.
Under the permitting number that is blank on here.
I got you. Okay. So phase 2, you want to discuss that?
Sure.
Describe that to us.
So the RFP was broken out, if you recall, into phase 1 and phase 2. You can do just phase 1, or you can do phase 1 and phase 2. You can't do just phase 2. And so phase 1 is kind of a standalone, that'll get you that report. Phase 2 goes into, and phase 1 does include a presentation, a public meeting or a select board meeting presentation. Phase 2 goes into meetings with town and to concur with the ranking of the well sites, and gets into source permitting. So that's the permission to actually go and drill the wells. We listed in the RFP site permitting, which is, so source permitting is permission from drinking water to drill the wells, Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division. Site permitting would be very site specific, which is why not all of them gave numbers. They had some wording about it in their proposals. Site permitting is things like wetlands impacts, stream alteration. That if a site had a wetland and it was impacted by, let's say, an access road, then it would need wetlands permitting. But until you know what the sites are, you don't know what that permitting is. Site access, getting the road in to the well site, so the drill rig can actually get in there. We had provided some assumptions for that, for them to use. And then constructing 3 wells, so drilling up to 3 wells. And then water quality and water quantity testing for 3 wells. So when we look at these numbers, phase 2 subtotal is the second line from the bottom there. Otter Creek's at 292,000, VHB is 182,000, and Wright Pierce is 77,000. But if you look up above, you'll see some blanks in there. So Wright Pierce didn't give a price for site permitting and site access, and their proposal indicated that they would give that towards the end of phase 1. They would refine the phase 2 costs and provide numbers for that. VHB said the same thing about site permitting. They did give a number for access, but they said for permitting, they would give that number at the end of phase 1. They would provide a cost for that. Otter Creek did provide costs for both of them. But the 2 costs provided by Otter Creek and the one for site access from VHB, those are placeholders until we know what the sites are. Those numbers don't mean a whole lot. But in all of this, the town would only pay for what the costs incurred are. These aren't like guaranteed you have to pay this much money.
It's up to this.
Not to exceed time and expense. So the other difference here, and so the bold on the bottom, that total phase 1 plus phase 2, is literally just adding them all together with what they proposed on. The other difference with Wright Pierce is that they only proposed for 1 well to be tested for water quality and quantity, whereas the other 2 proposed for all 3 to be tested. So if we take VHB and Otter Creek's numbers and take out the things that Wright Pierce didn't include, so only 1 water quality and quantity test, no site permitting, and no site access. The numbers are Wright Pierce at 83,000. This is total phase 1 and phase 2, 83,000. VHB would be 110,000 and Otter Creek 160,000. Another thing to note, after talking about it earlier, the water quantity testing that Wright Pierce is proposed on versus VHB and Otter Creek is a kind of a initial high-level test. Whereas VHB and Otter Creek went for the full testing requirements, which is a 72-hour pump test on each of the 3 wells.
Yeah, the water quantity testing that Wright Pierce gave a cost for was step 1 of Imagine 10 steps. They did not provide a cost for steps 2 through 10.
Oh.
Whereas everyone else provided a cost for steps 2 through 10 plus step 1. So when you look at it, you're like, oh, 88,000, that's great, but they left out a 6-figure number that should be put in there.
And so for Wright Pierce, as proposed, at the end of the project, you would have an idea of which well would be the best, but not guaranteed, because you wouldn't have that full water quantity testing completed yet. Whereas the other 2, you'd be ready to permit that well for use.
So, questions?
Just so, I'd like to rehash the whole water thing. That special vote just gives us all the authority we need as a board to keep going through and picking, decide this and then the next step.
I think that's a good.
Or is there gonna be like, if we get in another 250 grand or 317,000, and people will say, holy moly, or was that vote that we had, was that just to pursue this right to until the wells are drilled?
This is to find out what it's gonna cost
There
us.
was no money voted at town meeting.
It was voted that we pursue
This.
what it would
Getting
cost to
What
get
it would-
quotes, and it stops here.
Well, this is the cost to find and identify the sources.
Well, what we voted at town meeting was you could go ahead and set to get an estimate of what it would cost, but no money spent until you have another vote.
Because we are operating in the dark, we're gonna continue to operate in the dark for some time. Even if this, approximately $250,000, for a round number, 200, whatever. That just says, here's your water. Maybe, but we got to give them the benefit of the doubt, say, yeah, here's your water.
No, I appreciate you explaining it.
Yeah, but where are you going to send it? What's it gonna cost us to pipe it around town? Who's gonna pay for it? Taxes, all those kinds of numbers are
That's a whole different.
Exactly.
Once you get this, so if you proceed with this,
Yeah,
and you get to the end of it, you do phase 1 and phase 2, and you have a source.
yeah.
That lets us then answer the big question everybody wants to know.
Exactly,
Because that tells us what the water quality is, and what the water quantity is, and where it is.
yes.
And then we can figure out how much piping would be needed, what treatment would be needed, what storage, and pumping.
Yes, and that, at that time, we as a town need to decide where we're going to send it, who is going to be recipients of this, how it's going to be paid for. We're going to end up with another municipal bureaucracy. We're going to hire a water treatment manager or whatever is necessary for the facility.
Four more people go on vacation. People need different levels of certification.
There's a lot more to this.
Depending on the type of system, this is further out, but depending on the type of the system that came out in all of this, there are companies that can operate the water system for you. You don't have to hire your own operator.
Oh.
You can just hire a company and they'll have an operator here. Or it all depends on what level of effort is required for that particular system.
Gotcha.
If we added hydrants or anything like that.
I just personally, I think it's a waste of money to pursue it, because you were gonna have it encompass such a small area, and the people, half of the people in that area now that you've got aren't gonna want it, and you're putting a very high financial burden on them forever, because you'll no more you have to bond to do it, and you'll no more get that bond paid off in 20, 30 years, and it'll be time for repairs. And I think it's just gonna, you think it's the economic gain that you think you might get from it, I think isn't gonna come anywhere near costing what you're gonna lose. Because if it costs too much to live and our taxes are going up, you're wasting the money. We've got other infrastructure that needs this money. We've got bridges and ditching and culverts.
Good point. And to that point, you and I talked about the potential financial support available. I understand there is no interest loans for the planning, and then there's low interest loans for the construction. Is that correct?
Yes, and source exploration is considered planning, so even construction of wells, it's still under planning. Construction is when you actually build the water system.
So in theory, we could get $200,000 or whatever in a no interest loan, paid over 20 years.
Still have to pay it back.
Oh, we get
It's gonna cost more than 200,000 though to put the system in.
Sure, that's the next phase. We're still looking at this piece what's on the paper right here.
But you've got that 20-year loan already you've gotta pay back, and then you've got,
If we do it in stages, think about it in stages, this particular stage of finding the water costs us $250,000. We can get a no-interest loan for that payable over 20 years. Then, in theory, if we choose to do that, if the town votes to do that, we then are going to have to come up with the rest of it, and let's say another 500,000. I don't know what's it take to lay some pipe down?
yeah, but you're gonna have a very small, it isn't,
No,
your whole
I hear
town
what you're
isn't gonna pay the whole thing.
I understand that, I hear what you're saying, but I'm trying to take this one step at a time.
Yeah, but in
and
your fire district.
I hear that, and we will get to that for sure, but right now, we're looking at the cost of this proposal. That will put us to a point where we then have to decide where we're gonna, how much is it gonna cost to get from wherever the water goes to the public system. That is another lot of money. That's gonna have to be, that decision is gonna have to rest with the electorate as well. Hands up.
A couple of things. One is a question. I know that.
Can you identify yourself?
Yeah, Joel Blooming. I know that a tax study is either being done or waiting to be done to find out what the implications would be to the taxes.
Who's that doing that?
I believe Chris Robbins, the Planning Commission, under the auspices of the Planning Commission. I also know only a little bit about the fact that if a fire district is developed, the reason we can get loans and not grants is because the income level in Jamaica is too high. But a fire district which will exclude most second homeowners would possibly bring down this district's per capita income, thank you, to where we might qualify for a full grant, at least for part of it. Is that correct?
So there have been instances where the water system serves a small portion of a town. The funding agencies look at the entire town for median household income. If you're serving a smaller area, you can do an income survey. And if the income survey shows a lower median household income for the area served or to be served, then that median household income is what is used for the funding purposes. There's no guarantee it'll be lower.
Yep.
But if it is, it could be a benefit. Right now, under the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, they are not offering grant incentives for planning. They do have some afforded, they call them, they don't call it grants. They call it subsidy. And they do have affordability subsidy under construction, but it's not under planning. Planning is just the 0% interest for right now.
So what's available for this initial $250,000 is pretty much a zero interest loan as good as we can get.
The other option that we talked about is grants that are available through ACCD, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. Those are typically much smaller numbers, like 20, 30,000.
And our RFP was written in a way where we're not committing to 1 and 2 together.
Yeah.
It could actually only be just phase 1 and maybe whatever is decided after that happens.
Yes.
Although I appreciate it, the input. When I asked that question, I didn't mean to open the door to discussion of that much farther down. It
That's
just,
okay. It's hard
I
to
can tell you that I'm sitting here as a citizen of the select board member and I'm torn. all right? I'm not gonna tell you which way, but I got a well, but I just wondered where us five, or we five, you know, stop spending money, and I think the question was answered. You know, where it's not put on us to, you know, say, okay, we're gonna spend X amount after this. I just wasn't clear about that.
Yeah, I think we've been given the responsibility to take
Go
a
this
look at
way.
these numbers and take a look at these numbers and decide if we're gonna go forward with this.
Which, if you ask me, is a pretty, a pretty big decision to put on the board. Even, you know, these numbers might not seem like much, but with the Clean Water Act gonna start coming in and harassing us, and whatever's gonna go on with the schools, you know, municipalities all have their different problems.
Sure.
You know, extra couple grand, $100,000 here and there, out of what is our budget a year?
Well, not that much, yeah. Well, so your point is well taken. The question for us tonight is, do we take one of these bids and move forward in that direction?
Are we expected to?
I think you're supposed to,
Yeah.
before you spend any money, you go back to the voters, give them the 3 options, and that's how you decide.
Yeah, this discussion should be in a special town meeting.
That's what I think.
Where we discuss this, and you guys can come back and, and then, yeah, then the town, we have a special vote, and the town makes the decision with this information. So, you know, I guess that's us saying, yeah, we're gonna move forward, but us moving forward is taking it to the town so that they can have the discussion, and then, you know, we potentially have a vote on that.
Australian ballot.
I think it
Australia,
should be
yeah.
Australian ballot, so everybody gets the chance to vote.
That's where town meetings.
Hi. Jessica Pollock. Would it be possible before this board kind of moves in that direction, sort of setting a time or a date to go before the board? I personally would be interested in seeing the 3 proposals and the matrix that was put together, analyzing the apples to apples of each of them. It might be better to actually get some substantive feedback on those proposals, make sure that, you know, maybe the 3 firms sharpen their pencils, if that, I don't know, maybe that's already happened before, and then there could be sort of a little bit more robust discussion.
I'm sure it could be more. The question I have is the legality of taking these 3 bids and putting them out in the public and saying, okay, I'm gonna get everybody in town to read all the bids. There is a responsibility within us, within the select board, to do that. Now, that doesn't mean we spend the money, but we certainly make the selection.
My recollection was that each of these bids is actually, there's no confidentiality requirement. They all understood that this was a bid to a municipality and that their bids were likely to be published.
I don't have any problem with that.
Aren't these under public records? I mean,
I mean,
What's their own, probably, yeah.
someone sued.
But the question of, here's the practicality of it. The practicality of it is my understanding, the select board does have the responsibility of selecting the particular agency based on the information we get from our consultants, which direction to go. Whether we're going forward with that selection, if we pick, for example, VHB, say we're gonna go with that one, then we go to the town and say, we found an outfit, this is what it's gonna cost. We've done the homework to find out of the 3, this is apparently the best offer we have. Do we move forward with that? As opposed to putting all of them out and getting to the town and having people bid on, offer their thoughts on different pieces of all this stuff. They may or may not.
My question is, as you go through that, it sounds like that's the process now, then that you're gonna go through to make a recommendation to the town, which of the 3, assuming the town agrees to go ahead with phase 1. I'm just saying, could the public, could the town, anybody who's interested, I mean, these documents are often pretty Byzantine, but anybody who's interested can see the 3, ask questions. No.
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm thinking of the practical aspect, not the legal aspect, and I'll have to explore that to tell you the truth. Practical aspect is putting all these things out for everybody to look over and read, who may or may not get what's going on, because we've got experts had to, I've read them all, and I still had to turn to Chrissy to explain what those guys said. The
I
question.
can tell you, I am highly qualified to do so. I'm sure there are some other people.
I'm sure there are as well.
And you don't actually have to publish on the website, but you could just sort of say, anybody who's interested in seeing can send an email and get it. I'm struggling to understand why That wouldn't be okay.
Well, to do an Australian ballot, you're gonna have to have a solid number.
We have to pick. We as a select board, if we're going to go forward with this, I believe,
Make a recommendation.
we have to recommend VHB, because I like the color of their thing, blue, we're going with blue today. Then we come to the town and say, this is what we had decided, the select board, predicated on our expert involvement. You, the town, asked us to look into this stuff and to go forward with it, here's where we are. And then decide if we're gonna go forward with that, as opposed to trying to decide which one of these bids, in theory, by a house full of various levels of expertise.
Well, you might wanna have just a public information meeting explaining the 3 bids, but then you guys pick one, and then we have the vote by Australian ballot.
I mean, you could just have another select board meeting after you've made the information available and people could raise their questions at a select board meeting.
The other possibility is we could abdicate responsibility, turn the whole thing into a public meeting, the town hall, and bring our lunch. If you follow. We have our expertise evaluations, we will review these things, and as a select board, choose what we feel is the best of the projects. Then present that to the town for their decision to go forward or not. Not pick these projects apart. Because in theory, we could have representatives from each project coming in and offering their ideas of why they're better than somebody else. We get into that sort of thing and it turns into a...
Right.
Go ahead. No.
I was gonna say, as part of the presentation, we could say, we've recommended this, and here's why, and here's how this one's better than that one, and we can speak to some of those points, but to go in with the microscope and kind of analyze all the contracts as a public meeting is kind of, I mean, I think that's our, like you said, that's our duty.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got experts.
It's not a fun
I mean,
job.
certainly there's other experts, we're not gonna, we're not gonna be able to physically possibly ask every single expert.
Joe.
No, but the way I'm sure you did with the garage and with other issues is you had specialists to deal with. And I don't think it should, I mean, in my opinion, fall to people who have no experience in how to select this, but there are experts, for instance, the 2 people over here, who perhaps could be part of a committee that could analyze and make a recommendation to the select board. To help you in your decision of how to pick which contractor you want to recommend to the town to vote on.
And I think that's what Chrissy's done.
Right.
And let's be clear, Chrissy's not doing this on behalf of the frame. She's doing this as a citizen of Jamaica, which we really owe you big time for.
Well, as Brian.
So
there are experts in town who could be.
I'm sure there are. We just have to make a decision as a select board.
But you can make that decision based on information you get. Chrissy could have an idea of which works better, and Brian can have an idea, and they could be recommending to you their thoughts on which might be better. But yes, ultimately you have to make the decision.
Thoughts?
We don't have to pick one tonight.
Yeah, I would like to get copies of those, because I
Sure.
haven't seen.
Oh, not a problem, we can get you those things.
Read each proposal.
Yeah, they're always available in the redbacks, copies. They did come electronically?
Yes.
I think they
He
did,
came when
yeah.
I was on vacation.
So we could just electronically send you these things now that we've opened them up. So then, for tonight's decision, we're going to not make a decision.
That's what I would say, yes.
There's a lot to digest still, I think.
Okay.
Well, I think it was explained pretty well.
I think
Yeah,
you're
right,
right.
right.
I mean, what more of an explanation do we need?
Well, what we have here is 2 experts who also have a history of and are currently involved with the planning commission. They know the town, they know the people, they know the situation, and it's their careers. I don't know how many more experts we need to have who would have a better feel for what's going on than residents whose career it is. So I have put a lot of weight into what these people are offering us for information. So the question then, so for tonight then, we will delay the decision on which agency to go forward with until the July meeting, at which time we will select agency, and then we will plan on a town meeting to explain the costs as delineated in the packages, and ask the town if they wish to go forward to spend the $20,000 minimum in anticipation of another $200,000. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does to me.
If any of the select board had questions, would you be willing to, can we call you? And ask
Absolutely.
questions and such?
We know where you live.
I have one other question right now, and maybe you probably already said it, but after phase one, they'll have potential sites identified. That will, maybe looking down the line, I think one of the things that we're kind of struggling with is these unknowns of the next thing. We're in this long race and we're only getting to each hurdle at one time. We're not getting to the finish line or even anticipating the finish line. And after, if I see this right, after phase one, we won't know that there's water there, but we'll be fairly comfortable and we can have a better sense of location of where these are, which will lead to a better sense of what phase three would be. Is that true? Because I think some of the questions of the town is, what's phase three? How do we implement this? How do we get water into a house, or should we get water into a house, or, you know, any of those types of questions? Are we a little closer to that after phase one, or?
A little bit. So we have an idea of where potential sites are, but we still don't know how much water there is or what the water quality is.
Right.
So there's a few that we need to know where it is, to know how much pipe is needed. We need to know what the water quality is, to know what the treatment needs to be. The water quantity tells us how much storage we need, and what our service area can be. And then along with you know, quantity and location tells us if there's any pumping needed, aside from the well pump. So it gets us a little bit of that.
Okay, no, that's a fair answer. Yeah, and I think the other piece that maybe Joel alluded to is that, I mean, the implications, the tax implications, I mean, some hypothetical economic implications, those are all these questions too. I mean, it's hard to balance. I mean, I'm a business person. I mean, I see great potential here, but it's hard to kind of say, does it really make sense? I mean, so, and I know we're all struggling with that, so.
There's a couple other pieces. The gentleman I talked to, Greg Smith, who is Wright Pierce, sent me a note on some stuff. And one of the things he wrote in, and I'll read it to you because it's may or may not be germane to us. He said, one piece of friendly advice. If you go with another consultant, please be sure to get an option agreement for private property prior to drilling any wells. I have seen undevelopable swampland worth $30,000 suddenly become $1 million property after a high yield source was identified. And you and I talked about that once before. And this gets to the business of how much information are we going to have prior to that public meeting and how our real estate rates go up the day after the public meeting. So that has to be a part of the consideration. And so let's just, there are so many tentacles to this thing. I'm telling you, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you doing this.
And if Chrissy has to continue to come, I mean, out of the goodness of her heart.
I don't know how much goodness of our heart she has left.
Well, if you came as, you know, to guide us or outside of your company, is that illegal to receive any kind of compensation for that, or is that a conflict, or do you care?
At this point, I have, and I've already talked to Paul about it, I have basically volunteered my services to help you guys through this phase of work, the source exploration, including helping you with funding assistance.
And she is, if I'm understanding, your friend is not bidding on this project at all.
Correct.
So your part, the company politics over here.
No, I wasn't implying that, but thank you.
I just don't want to, I'm exactly on board with you. I don't want to step on any toes. I'm so thankful for what you've already given us. Plus, do you really want to take the blame for this if it goes south?
I do.
Yes.
Did you actually make a formal recommendation, which of the three you recommended? I didn't miss that. I didn't hear.
Not yet.
No, okay. Okay, so the vote, if there had been a vote tonight, it would not have been based on your recommendation.
No, she provided the clarification of the apples to apples pieces that for those of us who don't speak the language were gobbledygook. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
No.
If the board wants a recommendation, I can certainly provide one prior to the next meeting. I do want to say that all three of these firms are more than qualified to do this work.
Yeah, you did say that, it all looked like good proposals. Yeah. Gentlemen and ladies, considering the peanut gallery, thank you for all being here. What, anything further on this? What we're gonna do at this point, I hope you wrote down the first thing, because I don't know what I said. We're gonna meet in 2 weeks, for the July 8th.
We're gonna talk about it, make a decision in 2 weeks. And then from there, we go to town meeting and present the proposal that we've chosen.
Special
Or even special town.
I think you said that's clearer than I did. This July 8th, the decision on the company, and then town meeting.
Warn a vote at some point.
Special town meeting.
Oh,
So that special meeting would be an informational meeting? And
Yes.
and then
Yes.
followed by an Australian ballot? In other words, that meeting will be to give information about the company that you've selected?
yes.
And then-
The Australian ballot for a yes or no vote on it,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Then should we be putting the
Yes.
proposal we've chosen, at least on the website?
We can do that.
So people have a chance to review that before.
We can put the one that we
People to
chose.
vote on something that they don't know anything about, you know, they haven't seen
It's
this.
never stopped us before.
They will now. Remember, you gotta live here.
Wait a second. He knows where I live.
I do.
Whose motion was that?
That wasn't
Where
actually the
everybody
motion.
is.
We're just trying to clarify what is it we're gonna do, so when we make the motion, it sounds like.
So
it
you
makes
have to
sense.
warn that vote then too. If you're going to vote, you have to
on the
warn the
town
meeting and warn the vote.
Yeah, so the town meeting decision on the company,
So that's 45
we'll make that decision, we'll explain it, and the vote will be during the town meeting.
Right, that's 45 days to warn a vote,
Oh,
isn't it?
45 days?
To warn a vote?
to warn
at
if
least
we're gonna
30.
vote on something?
You
We'll have
have
to
to
check.
warn something, what, between 30 and 40
Yeah,
days?
I was thinking 30, yeah.
Okay.
I think the town meeting needs to be warned 30 days out as well.
At least,
45.
Yeah.
40 to 30.
You can't really want it until you've made a decision.
Right, of course,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can have your information meeting,
Right, right.
but your Australian ballot has to be 30 to 40
Right.
days.
So we could do a separate meeting for information
I don't
before
think
that.
that was the sense of the board, was to have a special town meeting and then have an Australian ballot until we heard it from the audience.
Second.
Was that you guys, is that what you guys wanted to do? No, I'm just saying, one way or the other, it's all right, but I wasn't hearing that.
My idea was to have an informational meeting and then you want to vote. You don't even necessarily do the vote at the meeting. You could have an informational meeting, then a week later have the vote.
Well, what are we
That's a
talking
separate-
about? Are we gonna have a vote?
But we can get a meeting or, yeah.
What we've done, the sequence right now is, on July 8th, we, select board, will decide which of these three companies we're gonna go with.
I got that.
The next, and regardless of that, we can start warning the meeting, 45, let's pick September something. How many 45-day options do we have? Pick a date for our meeting, for a town meeting, somewhere in there.
For the ballot, but just for the
Wait,
ballot.
wait, wait, finish. Hang on. We can start the warning. In that interim, we can have the town meeting,
Information.
informational meeting, and then the vote. The idea is we don't have to wait for each two parts to get to the end, or we're gonna be extending this thing for months. So in order to facilitate just the timing of it, we warn it now, then do the interim pieces, we can always cancel it. It's a lot easier to cancel a special meeting than to start. True? I agree with
But you
that.
have to warn both the informational meeting, I think, and
The information meeting wouldn't have to be
Wouldn't
warned
have to be
40
warned.
days.
no,
I think the information, there's not gonna be a vote on it. Well, there'll be an up-down vote.
not at the information.
Not an information meeting.
Informational vote?
No, informational meeting is just information, here's what we selected, here's why we did it.
Okay.
Then this special town meeting would be the alternative
We're down.
at that meeting, and if there be
That's
a
right.
discussion before that vote.
So the idea is to warn that one far enough in advance, hit those other interim meetings, and then be prepared for the town meeting, should we, you know.
Special meeting probably have just 5 days, like you
Like a
recommended.
select meeting.
Yeah, but see, we're far enough in advance,
Yeah.
we could do it early enough, and people start thinking about it. Okay. Let's call this a motion. Motion is to postpone the decision on the selection of the companies until the July 8th Select Board meeting, after which we will have a town informational meeting to describe the proposal, following a town vote on the total project. Not the total project, don't use those words. Back up, Mike, yeah. Town vote up or down to continue.
Do you want Australian ballot in there?
Australian.
Yeah, that would make sense. Which means we have to go find some Australians.
They're upside down.
Could you read that motion back, just to make sure I get all the points?
I skipped a few words, but Paul made a motion to postpone decisions on the selection of the company until the select board meeting on July 8th, and then a town informational meeting followed by an Australian ballot vote to decide if we will go forward. I didn't get that far.
All right, read it back, the first line again.
Paul made a motion to postpone decisions on selection of company until the select board meeting on July 8th.
Okay, period. Because the next line makes it sound like we're putting it off until after that other vote.
Right.
So,
Are people who's just looking at the minutes, are they gonna know we're talking about the water, some resource exploration
Well, it's all under
proposal?
that part. I mean, I do them in sections,
that'll be into that section.
but I can put it in there.
No, just asking.
The other piece of that, 15.5, that motion sounds okay with everybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Do a second.
Oh, I need a second. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So that's gonna pass. The other piece of this that I jumped my brain ahead to is 15.5. At some point, we're going to need a point person to be involved. If we go ahead with this, if we choose to go ahead with this, we need somebody who's interested in being the administrator of this project. They don't necessarily have to be, engineers, but somehow to be able to be a single point of information for the companies to contact, rather than trying to chase me down or try to chase the select board down, have a point source that's blessed by us. So we have to think about that too. We don't have to do that tonight because we're not making the decision. Okay. Time for public concerns. We have public. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you guys are aware of it, up on Pikes Falls Road, town of Stratton's gonna be ripping up some culverts somewhere between Town Line and Brazier's Way this week.
Oh.
Kinda got wind of it because of Tour de Grace coming up, and I talked to a member of the town, Stratton Road Crew. They have signs up already. They are doing culvert work one lane at a time unless something happens and they have to close something. So just to make you aware, that's happening this week. Of course, it's gonna be raining tomorrow, so there's gonna be some delays into the weekend.
When's the Tour de Grace?
Saturday.
You're gonna do this the same day that's running?
They already started.
They're not, yeah, they've already started. Yeah.
They excavated across the road right at the town line.
Already? Oh, by the way, for information, that's Fire Chief in West.
Yeah, sorry about that. Also, probably, something to think about, your 3 troublesome culverts downstream, now more water is probably gonna flow even more. Just to rain on your parade.
Thank you, sir.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I would just like to make an announcement and an invitation for the select board. Tom's involved in it anyway, but the Jamaica Community Arts Council is hosting a reading of the Frederick Douglass 1852 July 5th speech, where he was asked to give a speech on the 4th of July about freedom and it was a little fiery because he said that the blacks are not free. So why did you ask me to come and give this speech?
Gotcha.
So we read it, it's been very popular. Sometimes we fill the town hall. And one year we had, I think, 86 people come and
Wow.
everyone had a part in reading this. So it's really quite wonderful. And then we have a potluck afterwards, so feel free to come. And the West Townsend Community Project works along with the Jamaica Community Arts Council to do this.
Excellent, very good.
What's that date, sir?
It's this Sunday, June 30th at 11:30 at the Jamaica Town Hall with a potluck afterward. Thank you.
Anything else for the board? Anything good?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, hand it back.
And for our lots, I wanted to ask if those barrels could possibly be moved from the corner of the property.
Sure, that's a possibility. We're in the process of trying to design some landscaping so that kept the parking on that portion that's our lawn down. We had to put the barrels up because there was no other way we could keep the cars off that stretch.
Well, the cars really, I mean, we really haven't been ever, since I've lived there, nobody's really been parking there to my knowledge, or unless it's been, I mean, it could be somebody else too. But those barrels are incredibly ugly, and they're also full of water, which means they're a wonderful host for mosquitoes now.
Oh, mosquito breeding.
So the sooner we could get them, I would really appreciate it.
We can.
I will promise to try to have everybody only park on my side, but if they could be moved soon.
Well, that's what they're put up there for. That would be something to consider. Let me talk to yeah.
Thank you.
We're trying to figure out when we get dirt down there. It's just not a high priority to get the guys off the road to come down and put dirt. But we've been looking at, we just got another setup for the boundary line, so we know what the boundary lines are for another purpose, but we want to make that pretty clear. And it's just not been a high priority.
You know, mosquito breeding is pretty high priority for me living there.
I bet it is.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
We can do something. Thank you.
Yeah.
I move we adjourn.
One second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of adjourning? It is 8.
Can we go back to the sidewalk and the speed bumps? Or
What's that?
Sidewalks, speed bumps,
Those,
crosswalks, nothing?
tonight was information on the speed bumps.
Okay.
That was part of the last briefing.
Okay.
When, I can't put that on because it involves so many people, I want to be able to warn it. So I'll put on a warning for the next meeting that we're going to discuss that issue.
Okay.
And make a decision.
And make a decision, but we needed to warn that topic.
Okay, because it was on the minutes, that's why on your agenda.
That was just his input, because he very nicely got us that information.
Excuse me, I got the information, but that's okay. He can take all the credit he wants.
He took credit for it.
But I did.
The teacher how to do my work.
Yeah, no, he's not. It's called Google. Okay, so we will, all the credit here. I mean, I'm gonna set up that thing.
What happened to
All right.
my motion?
Thank you.
Which one?
Somebody said.
That was second.
Yeah, Tom second.
Okay.
I seconded. What motion is this?
To adjourn.
Did we do that yet?
We did.
They
Oh, that's what I
stopped.
got stopped in minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.